Welcome into Surviving Paradise, the podcast that takes a sometimes serious, sometimes humorous look at the claim by Jehovah's Witness leadership that they are living in a modern-day spiritual paradise. I'm your host here, Stacy Bauman, former elder, ministerial servant, and a kid raised as a witness in the 70s and 80s. As I like to do, some of the stuff discussed here can be triggering. We try to have some fun while we heal, so each episode features sarcasm, human experiences, yeah, humor too, and it is never meant to offend. Please take it at face value, and hopefully it helps. As most here know, I'm playing a little catch-up from December of 2025. As I exited year 111 of the last days, I had some challenges with technology and more, so bear with me for at least one more week. I'm playing a little catch-up. I've only recently dove into the wealth of spiritual food that was presented to mankind during the December 2025 JW broadcast, which incidentally features the 158th Gilead graduation ceremony, as well as a series of talks that continue to baffle me. I know you're shocked. It features an hour and a half of drivel that Jehovah's Witnesses, thinking people, mature people, are expected to believe, starting with the fact and the premise that Jesus in heaven is the one delivering all of this information. And right from the outset of this broadcast, for the JW apologists that are visiting, and we'd like you to stay, I truly mean that, been there, done that, as well as the folks that like to come at me and DM me on social media, I'm coming with a few receipts from your own literature. From the Watchtower of July 15th, 1974, page 441, we were told, quote, "The point is that Christians have implicit trust in their Heavenly Father. They do not question what He tells them through His written word and organization," end quote. Yes, Jehovah and His Son Jesus are hosting the December 2025 JW broadcast, as well as Master of Ceremonies at the graduation. And then there's the Watchtower of January 15th, 1983, page 22, which told us, quote, "Avoid questioning the counsel that is provided by God's visible organization," end quote. And as if that wasn't enough for all the apologists or those that like to argue, there's the Watchtower of August 15th, 2014, page 21. Which assured us all that, quote, "Today, Jehovah guides His people by means of the Bible, His Holy Spirit, and the congregation. The guidance that we receive from Him is so clear that it is as if our own ears hear a word behind us saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" In effect, Jesus also conveys Jehovah's voice to us as He directs the congregation through the faithful and discreet slave. There it is. Quote, "We need to take this guidance and direction seriously, for our everlasting life depends on our obedience," end quote. So if all of this seems a little bit repetitive on this show, it's because for those that loyally listen, just a reminder, we gain new listeners, at least we hope we do each week, some of whom lean into the Jehovah's Witness trope that this is a, quote, "perfect organization run by imperfect men," end quote. But, well, I just gave you references. Remember, the governing body themselves have admitted that they're not infallible. They make mistakes. Despite that admission, we are still supposed to hang on their every word, to obey their every word. And then, if it seems a little off or you're uncomfortable, wait for it to be fixed with new light down the road. If you can't remember a single time Jesus did this in the Gospels, well, it's because he didn't, ever. But nonetheless, he lets it go these days. He's a little more flexible. And with that, we have set the stage for what is my brief review of the 2025 JW broadcast Gilead Graduation Soiree. Sit back and enjoy. Is now a good time to contemplate that Jesus himself held a graduation when he said the following at Matthew 10, verses 5 through 11 of the New World Translation. You remember, quote, "These Jesus sent out, giving them instructions. Do not go off into the road of the nations, and do not enter any Samaritan city, but instead go continually to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, preach, saying the kingdom of the heavens has drawn near. Cure the sick, raise up the dead, make lepers clean, expel demons." Don't go to garage sales. Nope, not in there. Back to the quote. "You received free, give free. Do not acquire gold or silver or copper for your money belts, or a food pouch for the trip, or 2 garments, or sandals, or a staff, for the worker deserves his food. Into whatever city or village you enter, search out who in it is deserving, and stay there until you leave." End quote. So if you're keeping track at home, from Matthew chapter 10, just a quick digression, the same organization building multi-million-dollar movie studios and more is led by a guy who didn't even want his apostles to have a change of underwear as they went preaching throughout the land. It seems like an odd paradox, a bit of a dichotomy, but don't let those brain cells fire. One thing you undoubtedly may have noticed from the Bible is, all I can say is, wait a minute, wait. There's no mention of a graduation ceremony there. Didn't they get certificates or walk the stage? And did I read that correctly? He said to only go to the Jews. You know, the apostates. Yeah, I know. It shocks Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's right there in the Bible. Jesus came and sent the apostles after him to only speak to the apostate Jewish nation. They couldn't speak to anyone but apostates. And back to our theme. There's no stage. There's no governing body. And wow, have things changed. And this entire broadcast here in December of 2025 is number 158 of something Jesus never did himself even once. But I'm here to say, oh well, let's leave that part alone and jump into the instructions these 52 new corporate account managers, I'm sorry, check that, missionaries and preachers were given by the 11 men Jesus had overseeing the ceremony in December. Our host is Helper Kenneth Flodine, and he gets the party started with none other than future king priest, he's a fan favorite, Stephen Lett. He kicks it off with a talk called Continue as the Salt of the Earth. So brace yourselves for some really good illustrations. I mean, it's Steve. Steve always comes. He's loaded for bear. And Brother Lett is in fine form in this broadcast. He begins it by taking the audience to Matthew chapter 5 and verse 13 and tells the audience that they are, quote, the salt of the earth. And so begins the leaps, the massive leaps in logic, the presumptuousness we have come to expect from an organization trying to lean into an ancient book to fit anything they're doing in modern times. He drones on about the apostles, quote, undoubtedly sitting close to Jesus. I don't know why we would doubt that. I don't know. And that they, quote, needed to be trained to be good examples and spiritual leaders. That those words applied to his apostles and to the 52 graduates who were listening to him at the ceremony. And I immediately thought, hold tight, hold tight. I learned from you guys too. I used to sit at your feet. I was an elder. I've read the Bible 7 times. Did you just say spiritual leaders? And did you claim that the Gilead people, the missionaries, were going to be spiritual leaders? And I immediately thought, wait a minute. From the outset of this graduation, the governing body is showing that they don't seem to know their own book, nor the guy, Jesus Christ, that they claim appointed them to speak for him. Now you're thinking, well, okay, why do you feel this way? Well, because Stephen Lett seems to have forgotten what Jesus himself said here at Matthew 23 and verse 10 of the New World Translation, where Jesus, the master of ceremony at this graduation, said this, quote, neither be called leaders, for your leader is one, the Christ, end quote. Oopsie, here we go. Not anymore, evidently. King Lett continues by saying, quote, interestingly, Jesus did not use a simile. He didn't say, you're like salt. No, he used a metaphor. You are salt. Am I? He was expressing identity, not resemblance. What did Jesus have in mind when he used this metaphor? Well, he was saying that his disciples would affect humans similarly to the way salt affects things. End quote. Uh-oh. And here we go. Here we go. Was he now? Is that what Jesus meant? I'd like to know how you know that, but let's just move past the obvious. Don't worry. We aren't going to spend much more time on this talk, but that's a lie. We're going to dissect this thing. But where does a thinking person even begin from the outset, from the very introduction? Like I mentioned first, how does he know what Jesus had in mind? Does he really know that? Did he get an email? Was there a mind meld? Did Spock show up? I don't know. Second, I couldn't help but think of, well, my own favorite salt lick in human history. You remember the wife of Lett. When he said his disciples will impact humans just like salt does, I thought, well, you mean like the wife of Lett? Am I the only one? If people turn around and look at Jerusalem, the apostles, when he said this evidently, if they turn around and look at Jerusalem being destroyed, is Jesus going to turn them into a pillar of salt? Is that why they're salt of the earth, Stephen? What about those that turn around and look at Armageddon? Or was that just a one-time event with Lot's wife? I mean, no one else got turned into salt ever again. And I mean, he says he knows what Jesus was thinking on this whole salt thing. So I think it's only natural that we get a few answers to some of these basic questions, don't you? Alas, Stephen Lett then says to the graduates, quote, let's discuss 3 things that Jesus could have well had in mind when he used this metaphor. End quote. And there it is. There it is. Within seconds of each other, folks. He starts this talk by telling us exactly what Jesus meant by salt. It wasn't a simile, it was a metaphor. Then he goes on to say seconds later that this stuff it's maybe, he could have well had in mind what he meant by this within seconds. And for those thinking I'm just picking on him, that I'm harping on this, that come on, we're all human, we say things, all true. But I harp on this because, folks, here within just 2 or 3 sentences is a fantastic macro look at the life of a Jehovah's Witness. This is what they're exposed to. They just accept this stuff. Most don't even notice it. They're not even paying attention. And that includes the 52 Gilead missionaries sitting in that audience. A bunch of flesh and blood men telling us what Jesus thinks. Well, sort of, I guess. But obey us anyway, no matter what we say to you. Is it a small example? Yeah. But it's compounded through the life of a Jehovah's Witness. It's weaved into everything they are told at conventions, in talks, in videos, in publications. It's always there. We have the mind of Christ. This is what he meant. 2 sentences later, yeah, well, maybe he meant this. And we're going to base a whole talk around it. I'm not going to go into the 3 points and break them down that Stephen Lett gives the audience, proving that the Gilead graduates are all salty. Forget it. It's absurd. We've heard them all before. But again, as I always do here, this is available on the only website powered by Holy Spirit. Please go watch it. It's still there, and you can listen to the talk and judge it for yourself. But needless to say, the talk continues, and Stephen Lett, known for his sly sense of humor, we've got jokes about black pepper. We've got jokes about jalapeno pepper. We've got other jokes too. We even have babies in this talk being rubbed in salt. We've got talk about sore throats and salt. We've got all things salt. Not a mention of Lot's wife, though. I thought that was odd. Not a mention. He tells the audience that they're all, quote, an antiseptic. They kill germs. Germs like gossip. Hold tight for a minute. That's a quote. You kill germs like gossip. You're so salty. And all I could think of is, no. Stephen, really? You've been in this organization your whole life. You've clearly never been in a field service car group or at one of those wine parties that the elders' wives have. Because if you think they're so salty they kill gossip, you've got another thing coming. But he continues with that they're so salty that they will kill Trinity germs, that they will kill immortal soul germs. I can't believe it, even as I'm listening and watching. I have long loved the way these guys take one word or one character or one illustration in the Bible and apply it to people in modern times. And in case you're not noting the irony of this show, I do it too. I just want you to know I realize that. That's in imitation of them. It's an imitation of showing how absurd it all is. Evidently. Okay? And they've been doing it and teaching people and using this form of teaching for well over 100 years. They do it. It's so insulting intellectually. But he continues. He drones on in this talk about salt as a preservative. And to be honest with you, it's time for me to check out on this talk because it just goes down the rabbit hole. But if you personally are feeling salty, go listen to Brother Lett tell people now graduating and being sent to book carts in third world countries to pitch his organization. Go watch him tell them that they're all salt. Because Jesus was evidently thinking this back in the day when he uttered these words and it was put into the Bible. This is what he was thinking. In the all-important last days, his people would be salty. And in fact, we are, but not in the way he thinks. But he concludes by encouraging the graduates to all keep what he calls their spiritual saltiness. Okay. We're off to a strong start in the December 2025 J-Dub broadcast. And I got to tell you yet again, Uh, oh, man. I am truly not ready for what comes next in this broadcast. I continue to be blown away by this every time I see it. King Lett introduces the standard talk show segment called The Inside Story. If you're new to this, this is part of the JW broadcast where they have a talk show format that resembles some stuff you've seen before. We get the now famous intro that literally includes a sweet guitar riff. I'm not kidding. Goes on and on, all accompanied by B-roll shots of Jehovah's Witnesses acting as producers on the mixer board, on the stages, adjusting the lighting and the sound. Then, halfway through the intro, as we're being introduced to the inside story, you get a fancy drum solo, a panning camera shot of the studio audience clapping on what looks exactly like the set of the Oprah Winfrey Show. I'm not kidding. And for those of us that grew up in this organization, you can't believe this is happening. This is real? I'm not tuned into an SNL skit here. I cannot get used to this. Every time I see it, I think, this is incredible. Some Bethelite now, who was 14, 15, 16 in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, that watched Phil Donahue, the Sally Jesse Raphael show, or tunes into Jimmy Kimmel every night, has somehow influenced the governing body to create the inside story. I will never get used to this. I mean, watching it, I'm going to confess here, I had to rewind it several times to watch the intro with the guitar riff and the drums and the studio audience. And I can't believe that. I kept expecting Ellen DeGeneres to come out on stage and start dancing like she, telling everyone to reach under their chair for a free gift. Remember? I mean, yeah, I saw the Ellen Show once. Okay, folks, guilty. And of course, the free gift is the latest publication from the Faithful Slave. Reach under your chair. We got something special for you. Everyone in the audience gets one. I couldn't believe this. And I've seen it several times. You truly have to see this to believe it. Go take a peek. It's in the December 2025 JW broadcast. As the inside story begins, the brother and host, whose name I don't remember at this point, brings out the first guests, a couple, and he starts the interview by asking them how they met. What? With the host doing his best Jimmy Fallon impersonation. Hey, tell us how you two lovebirds met. Why the hell do we need to know how this married couple met? What is this? Is it a prophecy? Does it lead back to Cedar Point, Ohio? I don't know. The guest brother says they hadn't married, that they just courted long distance for 7 years. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jehovah's Witnesses. 7 years of pen pals, of emails. I mean, did they FaceTime? We don't get the deets, but they courted for 7 years. And I wanted to see a list of their chaperones during that time, but it wasn't provided. 7. I couldn't believe. Damn, bro. Do you have anything you would like to, you're 7 years talking to this cute sister, but is there anything you'd like to take the time to confess to here in front of the studio audience? I'm thinking maybe you partook in some habits that weren't healthy. Okay, never mind. It's okay, bud. We've all been there, by the way. It doesn't matter, though. You might note you can still be an elder because whatever it was you were doing for 7 years while you courted this sister, it was a long time ago. Let's just let that lie. The married couple continue with the interview, and they admit they had a rocky start as kids and that both of them led double lives. Yes, remember that term? It shows their age. Double lives. They were very worldly. They made bad decisions. And I thought immediately, yeah, okay, here we go. Gee, I wonder who they're trying to reach by interviewing these two. And I'm not kidding. while they were dating, they claim they started to feel guilty about things, guess what, that they had done in their past as kids, teenagers, before they ever met. And they tell the audience that because of this, they both decided to go to the elders. Why is this interview on the JW broadcast? Because they are clearly trying to get people, as they always have, to come forward with things they did as kids. And I could not stop laughing. I will spare you here. I did think that this was a perfect time for a reminder, for a public service announcement to any witness listening. First and foremost, never, and I mean ever, consider confessing anything to an elder. Please see a past episode of this show on this subject. And I'll say it again, never, ever confess anything to the elders. They cannot forgive you. It's in their own book. And it's perfectly okay if you decide not to confess to elders, because that too is in their own literature. Yeah, did you know? Including the Secret Elders Handbook. Or take a look at one reference that is burned forever into my brain because it impacted me, the October 1972 question box. Go read it in the Kingdom Ministry. I'll say it again, Kingdom Ministry, October 1972 question box. Shut your mouth if you did something naughty, pray about it if you believe in Jehovah, and move on if you're going to continue as a Jehovah's Witness. It's a gift I can give you. I want to say again, the Bible doesn't support confessing to elders. Their own literature does not support confessing to elders. And now a third point. It's highly likely the elder you would confess to, guess what? Did naughty things and never told the elders, and he's still an elder today. So I'm going to say it again, inspired by this interview in the Inside Story. Never, ever go to the elders for anything. But rest assured that this interview is exactly what they're trying to encourage in this talk. Go to the elders, even as their own literature says you don't have to. It's total insanity, and you can find it in print. And here's my thought. I'm guessing there is at least one. There's got to be at least one Gilead graduate in that audience that came away from this talk now struggling with some past sin they did as a kid or earlier, that they now feel like they must come forward and confess to an elder. But alas, we're never going to hear about it. If it's true and I'm right, out of 52 people, 52 graduates, there's got to be at least one. And you will see at the end of this broadcast, they go through each graduate by name, and there are several single brothers and even several single sisters. Uh-oh. But December's Inside Story continues with more interviews, including the typical stuff, romanticizing locations and people in tropical lands. In other words, for those of us smart enough to know what we're watching, a recruitment video for young Jehovah's Witnesses to sign up for book cart duty in developing countries. And for those that have experienced missionary service or even have close friends that did or have, they will tell you that being a missionary is often a hellscape. Everything from language barriers to food intolerance to a lack of clean water to sickness, and then of course the inevitable lack of interest in Jehovah's Witnesses from those in the land. It is nothing like the organization likes to portray. Nothing. They go on to feature brothers from Haiti, a very, very dangerous place on this earth. Nonetheless, the organization portrays serving in Haiti as a romanticized privilege where everyone you encounter wants to know Jehovah. I can assure you it's not true. But it sure looks good in the video during the inside story. It looks amazing. They go on and on about Haiti and the things going on there, and we're introduced to Haitians and a couple of brothers at the branch and so on and so forth. All of this without a mention about what is really going on in Haiti. According to the UN news report, quote, regional gangs continue to mount coordinated attacks, control key economic corridors and agricultural regions, and force mass displacement, stretching police and humanitarian capacity to the limit. The murder rate in 2025 rose by nearly 20% compared with 2024. The humanitarian situation remains dire. Around 6.4 million people require assistance, with Haiti among the least funded humanitarian responses globally. End quote. Okay, but for the 52 of you graduating in this video, just, you're salt and stuff. You're sure salty. You're the salt of the earth. Go be salt. Try to dodge the murders, by the way. Season it up over there, you graduates. Salt it up. None of this stops the camera shots of them building kingdom halls in Haiti without a dime going to these people that we just learned are in dire circumstances. 6.4 million people require assistance. That's okay. Look at our kingdom hall. They show us shots of building kingdom halls in Haiti, not people eating or drinking clean water or being saved from the local gangs. And you might think as you sit there watching, yeah, this seems pretty okay. You remember like that time Jesus ignored the hungry crowd and just kept on pitching his message. Remember that? We're starving and need a drink. Yeah, shut up. I got something important to tell you. Remember that one? This organization, and if you're paying attention during the inside story of the broadcast, you'll note that this organization never offers practical help to people in dire need, and that includes Haiti. From the Watchtower of May 2021, page 7, they admit, quote, people may also feel that we should build schools and hospitals, as well as perform other charitable works. They are stumbled because we focus our effort on the preaching work, not on solving the world's immediate problems. Never should we become distracted by the political and social issues of this world. End quote. The Watchtower of May 2021, page 7. Quote, people, folks, I mean, again, remember Jesus did this? People showed up starving and hungry. Well, shut up now. I got something to tell you. I'm not going to get involved in your social issues. Oh, look at that. 2 people just passed out. They're dehydrated. Oh, look at that person over there. They just expired right before my eyes. Doesn't matter. Got a message to pitch. You know, I'm not here to help you. I don't know how a Jehovah's Witness can deny this insanity. They're sending these 52 graduates in this broadcast out to lands where people are dying. And their answer from the Watchtower of 2021 is, yeah, people get a little critical of us of that, but who cares? We're not here to solve social issues. I don't know. Can I just get a hamburger? And this has always been this organization's stance. So just for good measure, for those that think I'm being critical, the Watchtower of May 2017, page 7 says this, quote, this is a favorite, folks, quote, like the neighborly Samaritan in Jesus' illustration, we want to help suffering people, including those that are not witnesses, end quote. Folks, if there are 2 parables of Jesus that this organization simply can't understand, but an 8-year-old can, it's the Good Samaritan and it's the prodigal son. Very basic parables by Jesus that this organization, I don't even want to say they don't understand, they simply twist it. And remarkably, I would consider that evil. These are basic stories. Back to the quote from the May 2017 Watchtower. The best way to do so, remember, suffering people, including non-witnesses, the best way to do so is by sharing the good news with them. It's important to make clear right away that we are Jehovah's Witnesses and that our primary mission is to help them spiritually, not materially, notes an elder who has helped many refugees. Otherwise, some may associate with us only for personal advantage. End quote. I'm going to call this out. I'm going to call this out, and it's particularly directed at Jehovah's Witnesses. In the May 2017 Watchtower, page 7, it starts by saying, just like the Good Samaritan in Jesus' illustration, we want to help suffering people, even non-witnesses. The next sentence says the best way to do that is by sharing the good news and not by helping them materially. And so I ask a witness here, anybody, if you can show me in the Good Samaritan, with the man laying in the ditch, bleeding out, as these other people passed him by, his own people, can you see the correlation? Passed him by, a Samaritan man, an apostate, helped this man get into a place of safety. He was bandaged and he was cared for. The man left money to care for him. Can you please, while reading that illustration in Luke 10 of your own Bible, show me where this man decided that his, quote, primary mission is to help him spiritually, not materially, as this paragraph says in the May 2017 Watchtower. Really? Did he smack him around when he was in a coma and say, listen, I need to help you spiritually. I'm going to have to leave you in this ditch. This is in the same paragraph, my friends. The same May 2017 paragraph. The same thing they're teaching these graduates to go out and do in third world countries like Haiti. It's a study and mission of what drives this organization in a story an 8-year-old can understand. It's shocking. I have an entire episode in the past. It's one of my favorites. I say that a lot, but it truly is. If you're interested in me breaking down the Good Samaritan and showing the repugnant hypocrisy of this organization by even mentioning that illustration or parable, please go listen to it. It's a year or two old. But how do you reason this away? If you're a Gilead graduate listening to this inside story and these interviews, how do you walk away and say, I'm going to go witness about this organization to a starving person or a person covered in disease? You can dismiss this if you like. It's your right. No one even knows. It's in your head, your heart. But how are you doing it? Can you help us understand? The parable's really simple. And they're teaching these graduates that why they're really going to these countries is to pitch the message of a multi-million, if not billion-dollar organization in upstate New York of the United States. Period. The broadcast and the graduation ceremony continues with a talk by former baptized real estate investor and owner of the Tierra Bella Realty Company based in Charlotte, North Carolina. If any of this rings a bell, yes. King Priest Jodi, Jedele, one of the newest members of the governing body, gives the final talk. And just saying this out loud is surreal to me. He's younger than me. Not going to go there. You know where I'm going. And wow, have times changed in this organization. But before I unpack his wisdom in this talk, Just imagine for a moment being a Gilead graduate in that audience, listening to this guy counsel you. A man they can then open their browser and find on YouTube, where he was leading an organization called Touchstone International Properties, where he is into the camera encouraging people to become real estate investors. You know, during the last days. And yes, if you want to go see this on YouTube, go do it. It's right there. He was a baptized Jehovah's Witness, and yet he was teaching people how to invest in Satan's system of things. Good stuff, huh? What a great choice to address these Gilead graduates. Go watch him do his thing, and then jump over to the December 2025 JW broadcast for his pearls of wisdom to the Gilead graduates. One of them might have watched his YouTube and decided to be a real estate investor, and I don't know how to change a heart and became a missionary anyway. I don't know. But go watch this paradox. It's not even that. It's hypocrisy. The man who's teaching people how to become real estate investors on your computer is the same guy hosting a talk where he is sending these same people into third world countries without a penny in their pocket or even their own investment portfolio. I mean, I can't imagine what it was that made Jesus up there in heaven choose this guy to represent his organization on earth today. I mean, why would a real estate company choose a guy to be on the governing body that has real estate investment experience? I don't know. I'm not trying to connect dots here. I don't have Holy Spirit. And I got to tell you, as I watch this final talk, this is straight up clown show crap. This organization and this guy, Jodi, Jedele, is trolling Jehovah's Witnesses even as he wears expensive suits. And by the way, if you take the time to go watch this, what is going on with governing body members and their rings? Like, I'm sorry, I'm a hands guy. I'm going to admit it right now. Even when I find a woman very attractive, I look at her hands. I just told you TMI right there. I'm a weirdo. But I notice hands. That's just the way I am. Go watch Jodi, Jedele. He's got a bunch of rings on. What's the deal with these loud, ostentatious rings that these guys all wear? It's really bizarre. But in a twist of complete irony, the talk he delivers on the broadcast to the graduates is called Keep Winning Favor. And you can't make this stuff up. King Jedele gives what I can only categorize as a very intellectually insulting talk, filled, bubbling over with hypocrisy, starting with the fact that he is the speaker. He's the guy delivering it. It starts with the standard governing body nonsense, including Jedele telling the graduates how they feel. Yeah, he tells them how they feel. It's very strange. It's a psychological tactic. We don't have time. That their hearts are swelling with gratitude. He literally says that. Your hearts are swelling with gratitude. What? I mean, come on, folks. Imagine saying that someone's special. You're looking at someone you love, somebody special, and you look at them and say, hey, I know you love me, and I can't stop thinking about how amazing I am. I can see it on your face. You just can't stop thinking how amazing I am. The whole thing is just from the outset patently ridiculous. But here he is on camera doing it. He goes on to say, quote, I'm sure words fail to capture how much you've appreciated being immersed in Bible study, getting to know and love Jehovah even more deeply than you already did. In fact, we have enjoyed hearing all your comments, how much you've enjoyed it, end quote. It's a subtle, narcissistic pat on the back to him and the guys he works with. He literally then goes on to list the organizational departments and how much, quote, you've enjoyed them all, end quote. Well, not one of them raises their hand and speaks up. He's just making an assumption. Or maybe this is another one of those, evidently, evidently you've enjoyed them all. And with that, we get our standard governing body pat on the back for running these 52 people, the missionaries, through a school Jesus himself never mentions or established, so that they can refine their sales pitch in these other countries. And what follows is filled with some incredible quotes from the real estate magnate turned heavenly king priest. Consider some of them. Here's one, quote, Jodi Jedele says, quote, Satan doesn't like the fact that there are 9 million and counting that are enjoying a spiritual paradise. Thousands entering into it each week, and we want even more to come enjoy that spiritual paradise. End quote. Oh, no. People. Oh, my. Just a quick statistics check based on Jodi's comment here. First, a question. Has Jodi been to a local Kingdom Hall lately? I don't know if he noticed, but attendance is actually down. It's way down. My bad. You might remember they did away with almost everything that makes a Jehovah's Witness and their head count an official publisher anyway. When doing a head count, they only need to count those that at least once, one time all year, checked a box on their form saying they spoke to somebody about Jehovah. They could have been talking to their feet, maybe the post office guy, I don't know. I'm not going to go through the annual report today, but needless to say, his numbers and his assertions are grotesquely inflated. And it's not a good look for a guy that's a real estate investor, instructor, and also king of Jesus' earthly organization. But, well, there it is. Jehovah's Witnesses are living in what he calls a spiritual paradise, and thus the inspiration for the name of this podcast. Not one person stands up and says, wait a minute, this is a paradise? Stephen Lett just told me I'm salt, and not even the magical kind you taste on McDonald's French fries. I'm just salt. I'm growing hair on my face. You just changed what you've taught us for decades about the cry of peace and security. I can now toast at barbecues. I don't wear a tie anymore. That elder over there that I just told sensitive information to is 21 years old. Wait a minute. I'm just confirming this. This is paradise. This is a paradise. Yeah. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses are being told. Yeah, it is, folks. At least according to the guys, hosting the paradise. And the purpose of this talk, as well as the graduation, is to send more people, 52 sitting right in front of them, out into the world to entrap more people into what he calls paradise. Oh, and did you notice that Satan really hates it? I mean, you got to have a bad guy, right? Got to mention the bad guy. And ever since his big day as a talking snake and centuries back at home in heaven with Jehovah, still unexplainable, he's been down here on earth since 1914, sending his demons into that purse you bought at the garage sale, mopping floors at the United Nations, picking up the dry cleaning for the Vatican, and running an OnlyFans account. But needless to say, according to Jodi Jedele, Satan, everybody's joy and happiness, it's paradise. It's paradise. It's a paradise, spiritually speaking. He goes on to tell the audience that their job is to strengthen and stabilize people. That's a quote. He seems to be ignorant to the handfuls of Jehovah's Witnesses in his kingdom halls taking antidepressants. Probably because he was, buying a new property and he was distracted. That's what king priests do in the last days. How are Jehovah's Witnesses, according to what he says here, supposed to, quote, strengthen and stabilize people, you ask? It's a good question. Because he answers. He says, quote, well, we do what all servants of Jehovah do. We imitate Jehovah, end quote. Well, that solves it. And while I'd love to go nuts on his comment, I'll only encourage you to please listen to last week's podcast, where this same Jehovah is clearly the elephant in the room, but we're supposed to emulate him and be just like him. Strengthen and stabilize people, according to Jedele, just like Jehovah does. The same Jehovah that's too weak to launch Satan on day one and keep us all from all this misery. Or the Jehovah so stable himself, that he plans on doing what he has done many, many times before. You remember, when he slaughters everyone, including animals, because this ultra-stable God, you remember, he even admits he regrets making man at all. See the book of Genesis. But Brother Jedele then takes the audience to Proverbs 13:15 of the New World Translation, which says this, quote, keen insight wins favor, end quote. But alas, if you were looking for a real estate tip, you want some keen insight, what property should I buy? Jodi doesn't share that kind of keen insight here. That's got a consulting fee, that's subject for another day. But he does say something Jehovah's Witnesses should give thought to. He defines keen insight as, quote, the capacity for good sense, sound judgment, and wise opinions, end quote. And I couldn't agree more. A Jehovah's Witness should be using bucket loads of what he calls keen insight when considering their own organization. Why aren't you looking at your organization with keen insight? He uses another worldly definition and says, quote, it relates to intelligent knowledge of the reason, to see beyond the obvious, and allows a person to act wisely and have success, end quote. Love this. Looking beyond the obvious from the mouth of a governing body member. And if you look beyond the obvious, it allows a person to act wisely and have success. Interesting. So for a Jehovah's Witness, are you looking beyond the obvious? If only Jehovah's Witnesses would apply his counsel to their own organization and him himself. But again, see my comments on cognitive dissonance from last week's episode. Despite an avalanche of overwhelming evidence that this is nothing more than a corporate entity, a publishing / real estate / investment company, a corporation that is being sued regularly by people who have been victims of child abuse, a Jehovah's Witness doesn't look, quote, beyond the obvious, as Jodi Jedele said. They throw all keen insight into the wind, choosing to live in fear and ignorance. They don't want to hear it. It's a human tragedy. He continues by relating real-world examples of how to use keen insight. And let me just tell you, his examples are terrible. They're absolutely dumb, and some are insulting. The first one is about a woman who wanted to go to meetings, but her husband won't let her use the car, and she doesn't ask for help because she doesn't want to be a burden on anyone else in her congregation. He then says if she would have only used keen insight, we would have found out why she feels like a burden, because she lives 20 minutes away from the Kingdom Hall. Is he serious? I just shook my head. These are the same guys. They're here in this illustration encouraging people to have keen insight. Find out why the sister feels like she's a burden while she lives 20 minutes away. Oh, you should have found that out. Don't counsel her about missing meetings. Find out how to get her a ride. And these are the same men that won't listen to someone who comes to them about abuse, who won't report it to authorities. But they're here to tell witnesses and everyone watching the broadcast to have keen insight, ask a few more questions. I just came unhinged during this. I wanted to know, did this sister need 2 witnesses to prove she couldn't use her own car or to prove she lived 20 minutes away? No. You see, the reasoning only applies in one direction for the governing body. And I want to believe it's a stunning lack of self-awareness if I didn't believe that it's somewhat calculated and evil. But it gets worse. He goes on in the talk to give the example of a young sister whose parents weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, and they had a problem with her. They, being the congregation, the body of elders in her congregation, had a problem with this young sister. Wait for it, because of her clothes. Yeah, her clothes. As the would-be king said, quote, her clothing at times could be a bit more modest or well-arranged, end quote. He then counsels the sisters watching the broadcast and those missionaries there to be strengthening and stabilizing people as well. And the sisters of the congregation realized this young girl didn't have any money to have nice clothes. Is now a good time to point out that's not important? We're in a spiritual paradise? No? Okay. So the sisters eventually take her shopping. He lands a shopping joke. Everyone giggles in the audience. And would you look at that? That little sister is today still in the truth. Her unbelieving husband is interested now. I couldn't help but think, wait a minute, you were worried about her clothes, but you weren't worried about the fact that she was dating and married a unbeliever? Never mind, Jodi doesn't catch it himself. And that even her parents came into the truth later. And all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is because the sisters strengthened and stabilized her and her clothes. Her clothes. They took her shopping. Isn't that cute? I think we call that basic human kindness, but never mind. Jodi trips all over himself in this talk and looks incredibly ignorant for a guy that manages investment portfolios. It's incredible. And can I just tell you, just listening to all of this as it was and is exhausting, it's just mind-blowing to me. You would think I'd be used to it by now. How many shows have I done on this thing? But every talk is telling people what they're doing wrong or what they should be doing better. 52 people broke out of their minds with no health care or retirement in the near future, being sent into developing countries, and Jodi and his 10 best friends want to show them what they're going to be doing wrong and how they should adjust. It's incredible, and it's the formula of the governing body. His third point is that Jehovah's Witnesses need to be aware of how working hard impacts those around them and maybe even makes other people feel bad. I don't know. I swear to God, these guys are in a room coming up with some of the most harebrained stuff I've ever heard. And I'm not kidding. And I'm reminded, I guess I should say, I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to hear how I should put my socks on. Should I go with the left foot first or vice versa? My God, the stupidity. One of the ways to strengthen and stabilize these missionaries and anyone watching the broadcast is to know that sometimes when you work hard, it makes lazy people feel bad. Yeah. The micromanagement of every single breath a witness takes is on full display. His counsel is to avoid thinking that whatever you're doing, your work, is more important than someone else's. And I had to believe at this point there must have been some sort of pissing match going on at Bethel, some brouhaha. These 52 people are about to enter foreign countries, and his biggest worry is to avoid thinking that standing in front of their book cart is not something that's more important than the other guy, you standing in front of your own book cart. Yeah. Don't get each other upset. Your book cart's not better than his book cart. I can't fathom what goes through the writing committee's brain. But wait for it. I recently said that Stephen Lett's illustration about a 30-year-old holding mommy's hand across the street and how Jehovah's Witnesses don't need to do that. You don't need to hold the governing body's hand. We don't make rules. I know. Was as absurd an illustration as I've ever heard in years. But Jodi Jedele is now pulling up a close second. He says in this talk, quote, "Think for a moment that you need a fire extinguisher. Now, the other person doesn't know if you need to replace an old one that simply isn't working, or if there's a fire going on at the moment. So common sense might say to tell them there's a fire. You'll get it faster. Context matters." End quote. What? What? Is he serious? It can't be his illustration. I'm guessing the right. What? Wait, what? Look, if someone comes up to me and asks me where their car keys are, or what my password is for my Wi-Fi, or how I like my eggs, I have a pretty good idea what's going on. Just like Brother Jedele said there, common sense. But if someone walks up to me asking for a fire extinguisher, I don't know, what's your first reaction? Is it, oh, well, okay, I'm guessing he might want to replace an old one he has somewhere upstairs. What? I mean, it's perfect common sense, as he said, to go around asking people for a fire extinguisher when you just want to replace an old one that there's not a fire anywhere, right? You're in a restaurant and someone runs out and asks you where the fire extinguisher is, and you think, wow, what a person, what a responsible guy staying on top of replacing non-working fire extinguishers. I know I'm nitpicking, but this is brain dead. This is unbelievable. This is the best thing they could come up with. This is a spiritual paradise. Is Jesus up there just, wow, this one's going to land, this fire extinguisher thing. But furthermore, in the quote I shared, did one of Jesus' appointed kings just say that, quote, context matters? Yeah, he did. And he would know. I've never encountered another organization on earth that ignores context like the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses. For example, who wants to tell Jodi Jedele that John the Baptist being beheaded at a birthday party had nothing to do with, I don't know, the birthday party we all skipped in the second grade? He was beheaded at a barbecue. Would barbecues be off the table? Who wants to tell Jodi Jedele that context matters, I don't know, when it comes to things like a two-witness rule from the Mosaic Law, and that it doesn't apply to dangerous child predators in 2026? Who wants to tell him? In an even more ironic spin, who wants to tell him that despite wise King Solomon having 800 wives, it probably isn't the best idea to do that today because, well, context matters? Who wants to tell the man that's going to judge us in the future? Who's going to give us life or death? That, yeah, I'll be damned. Context does matter. And while it's easy for me to say, I'll do it anyway, I don't know at this point, and maybe it's my mood today, how Jehovah's Witnesses listen to this anymore. The men leading their organization expose their ignorance in every meeting, in every talk, in every broadcast. Again, just a reminder, the very person giving this talk, the quotes I'm lifting and sharing with you, you can go see for yourself, is also currently on YouTube, encouraging people to become real estate investors. And if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you choose to ignore all of this, yeah, then the problem truly lies with you. I don't say that to be insulting. It's just right there. Why are you listening to this? Why are you allowing it? We can only hope that anyone who's on the fence about this organization does indeed use, as Jodi put it in this talk, keen insight to examine what is being said to them. It's not hard. And then, of course, as the broadcast moves to conclusion, the moment we've all been waiting for. Each graduate is announced and goes on stage to accept their certificate of graduation. Is it a diploma? I don't know. Just like the apostles Peter and Andrew did when they threw down their fishing nets and Jesus handed them certificates. But frankly, folks, as I watched the ceremony and all the names, it made me kind of emotional. I'm going to admit it. Almost every person that comes up and grabs their diploma, they look to be in their late 30s, maybe early 40s. They're being sent all over the world. In year 112 of the longest running lie this organization has going. It's a tragedy. These look like really nice people who genuinely believe in their hearts that they're helping other people in faraway lands. And I'm not going to lie to you, it made me sad. And if you're new to this event, the missionary graduation, boy, that comes off sounding weird. We'll leave it alone. It ends with someone from the graduating class who is always elected to read a letter the 52 graduates have written. And as you might imagine, in this letter, the 52 missionaries address Jehovah. Sorry, wrong about that. I mean, they address their leader, Jesus. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Actually, the letter always starts with this, as it did in the episode. It starts with, "Dear governing body." Yeah. It's a brief letter of thanks where the brother thanks, not Jehovah, not Jesus, he thanks the governing body over and over again in the letter. Thank you for this, thank you for that. Our hearts are full, all due to the governing body. The camera scans the faces of the graduates, and I'm hopeful at this point that as this letter is being read, that at least one of them will jump up and say, "Oh, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute. Shouldn't we be thanking Jehovah? Oh, and why are we writing letters of thanks to guys who are actually making us travel to third world countries on their behalf to work for them for free? Shouldn't they be, I don't know, writing a letter and thanking us? Isn't this like that time Moses drew water from the rock and took credit for it? No? I was hopeful at least one of the graduates would stand up in a moment of lucidity. But no, didn't happen. No luck. The meeting concludes with Stephen Lett going back to his salt illustration to tell each of us that we have 8 ounces of salt in our bodies. And so we really are truly salt of the earth. And I feel better already. And with that, it concludes. 52 people are scattered across the earth to push the agenda of the governing body. And a quick word in conclusion on the Gilead School for Missionaries. From the Kingdom Proclaimers book, page 95, we're told, quote, "On Monday, February 1st, 1943, a cold winter day in upstate New York, the first class with 100 students commenced. Here was a school truly founded on faith in the midst of World War II. There was only a few areas of the world to which missionaries could be sent, yet with full confidence that there would be a period of peace during which they could be used. Prospective missionaries were trained," end quote. 1943, first class. The 2025 JW broadcast features the 158th graduating class of missionaries in 2026. In other words, 82 years of sending people to other countries to teach them about Jehovah's Witnesses. All of this should be considered under the microscope of their own words. From examining the scriptures of April 22nd, 2021, the governing body says, quote, "We are convinced that we are living during the final part of the days. Because so much time has passed since 1914, we must now be living in the last of the last days." End quote. What a paradox. And before we dismiss it all with a big shrug, consider the lives that have been impacted by this arrangement, this missionary thing. According to the Watchtower of November 15th, 2015, so a good 11 years ago, quote, it tells us Gilead was inaugurated in 1943, and since then, over 8,500 have been trained. Gilead-trained missionaries have served in some 170 lands, end quote. And again, that was from 11 years ago. So while it's a throwaway JW broadcast with the inside story and some of the craziest illustrations on salt and fire extinguishers you'll ever see, I ask you to consider that the 52 people that this meeting revolved around, they're precious human lives, one of a kinds. All that potential, free labor and sacrifice, all in the name of an organization, believing that that's their calling. An arrangement, I might add, that just like those who spent their whole lives serving in Bethel, believing it was their calling, an arrangement that can be taken away from them all at a moment's notice. So when you look at this, and before you dismiss it all, think about the lives impacted. And then ask yourself, where is all of this in the Bible? It isn't there. I'm reminded of a quote by Seneca when he said, quote, "Putting things off is the biggest waste of life. It snatches away each day as it comes and denies us the present by promising the future." End quote. And all of this is on full display in the December 2025 JW broadcast. Wasted lives. I want to thank you for being with me this week. Wherever you may be well.